Alrighty, we are back. Your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly. It's episode number 492. We are recording live on November the 24th. Brianna, how are you? How's the week going?
It's good. I am great. It's a beautiful day here. I actually finally got outside and went for a run yesterday for the first time in a while. And so that was really nice. And my goal is to run every day until Thanksgiving. I need, to like work off those calories in advance a little bit. And everybody's getting ready for Thanksgiving. So a little bit of a slower paced work week. And, just gearing up for some family time. And I'm excited to relax, maybe decorate for Christmas, all of that. But yeah, so how are you?
Yeah, good. It's been really busy here. We got our first snowfall this past weekend, and but it's warming up again. It'll all be gone, I think, by tomorrow. So yeah, so that's exciting. It was pretty to see the snow on the trees and whatnot. Yeah, it kind of puts you a little bit in that Christmas season spirit. So yeah, it's just another week. It continues. I guess it's for you guys. It's a little different with Thanksgiving coming up, so it's a little bit of a shorter week. For us, we already had that, so it's just a regular work week for us. But yeah, it's there's not a lot going on. COVID continues. We're in the red zone here now, back into a lockdown scenario for the most part here in Toronto area, and yeah, we continue to fight on. So that's about all that's going on here.
Yeah, I think we're definitely, obviously, we're not in lockdown yet. And being in Georgia, I'm not sure that we will go back to that. We'll see. But we're definitely in the red zone here too. And, we're doing pretty low key Thanksgiving this year. So, um, it's like, how do you cook all this food for just your immediate family? It gets hard. So we're doing the Whole Foods pickup, and I'm just cooking a couple of side dishes. So thank you, Whole Foods, for making great Thanksgiving meals and letting us moms of little ones have a little bit of a break. So yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot going on right now, and it's not a good idea to be doing a lot anyways. So here
Exactly.
we are. But
Exactly.
we're going to be thankful and just be grateful for our health and family, you know.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, we've got a good show for you this week. We got four interesting stories that we wanted to share with you, and as per usual, I'll let Brianna kick us off.
All right. So if you are deciding to maybe brave travel during the holiday season, Google has some interesting updates that they have been adding in and some new features on their Google Maps app. And so I was having a hard time finding it, but I finally figured it out. And one of the features that they are adding is COVID related. They say transit data, but really it's just COVID related data. So if you want to take a peek at maybe the path that you're traveling as you're going along, you can add a new layer to the map that you're viewing, just like you would go into layers to see like a satellite layer or anything like that. And you can see the numbers. It's based on the counties in the US anyways. It's based on the counties, and they cite the sources that they're pulling this data from, and you can kind of see like, is it red, is it yellow, where the case is going up or down in that particular county. And so it's interesting. By the way, just a heads up, you do have to update your app to get that feature. I was, pulling my hair out like, where is this? This seems like a easy thing to pull up, but updated the app and it worked well. They're also going to feature some live like crowd levels tied to transit. So if you're taking public transit anywhere, you can kind of see in live like how crowded the public transit is. Obviously, most people aren't taking public transit here in Atlanta because it doesn't really go anywhere that exciting. Airport, maybe, yes. Anywhere besides that, not not too many places. Other updates, they are including the ability to see like the status of live food, takeout, delivery. If you are placing that through the Google Maps, you can kind of see where that is. Probably similar to the features that you would see like on Postmates or Grubhub, where you can see where your driver is and delivering that to you. So yeah, I think that this is good, right now with just wanting to be safe, and maybe that even changes like where you want to stop and get gas on your drive, or where you want to think about if you do want to travel or not, taking a peek at the county that you are driving to or going to visit family in, if you are braving that, and just be safe. You can also see testing centers nearby, and there's lots of other features that are in there. So Google's just rolling out features left and right, trying to keep us safe in this. And I think this is a pretty good, this is a good rollout, good feature. It's nice to be able to have that at your fingertips and not have to kind of comb through a lot of things, and know what the sources are right there. So I like it. I think it's a helpful tool as we are continuing to, navigate life in 2020.
Yeah, I think, just more data is better. Just knowing kind of what's going on around you, trying to stay informed, to be able to make better decisions for you, your family, and those around you. I mean, and so, just presenting it in this way to kind of know what's happening around you, I think is super helpful. And I like that they're kind of citing the sources in terms of where the data is coming from. They've also updated their the search side of what they're doing in terms of COVID reporting, as far as something that they're calling the COVID-19 Information Hub. So it's got information on how to identify symptoms, how to prevent the spread, all things that you can do as well to kind of sort of stay on top of keeping yourself safe and keeping those around you safe. So that's really good. And I know that they're continuing to launch a number of developer tools as well to enable developers to integrate some of these capabilities around ride sharing and delivery and COVID data and all this stuff as well. So it's yeah, I mean, not rocket science here, but I think Google's obviously well positioned to be able to kind of display this information and make it available in a way that is easy to visualize and easy to understand kind of what's going on around you. So I don't have a lot more to add to it than that, but I think it's a good additional piece, a good layer to put on top of the map. So there you go. All right, on to our second story. Now this one completely, moving away from COVID here. So there's over in India. We're going to talk about fishing now. So there's a company called Number 8 that has developed what they're calling the Google Maps for fishing. And so this is a startup that basically, for a lot of fishermen in India, I mean, this is their livelihood. This is how they feed their families. This is how they support, their local economies and so on. And often you go out on the lake or the river or wherever, and you hope for a good day, right? Like all fishermen do. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But what Number 8 has done is come up with a way to really help these fishermen be a little bit more successful in finding where the fish are. And so they've developed an app that uses satellite data to indicate where concentrations of fish are near the port of wherever that boat is leaving from. And it can also identify where there's algae blooms, which are often seen as dead zones where fish don't hang out because there's low oxygen levels in that area. So it's a very interesting way to kind of use overhead satellite data to kind of help indicate where, from a satellite point of view, we can see schools of fish, or we can see where these algae bloom clusters are, or things like that. And this is super helpful because not only does it help them know where the fish are, it helps them take a direct path, which can save on fuel costs and a number of other things that are quite beneficial to the fishermen who are trying to make a living. We're talking about commercial fishing here, not just recreational fishing. So I find this super fascinating. The app is called O Fish, just the letter O Fish. And like I said, it's developed by a company called Number 8. And what's really interesting is the history of how this came to be. So back in 2017, this group was working on an app for natural disaster modeling and working in the property insurance market. And then they had submitted some applications to the European Space Agency for funding for this app for coastal flooding and other things. And then when some of the flooding hit, they saw the impact on the fishing community and kind of pivoted a little bit to see how they could support that community. And out of that came this O-Fish app, which they started last year in 2019, working with local fishermen around the Mumbai area. And then they applied, to the World Food Program, which had an innovation accelerator, and this app got basically accepted into that program, and that's how it came to be. So, I love that. Like we talk a lot in the world I'm in about startups and tech incubators and accelerators and so on, and I love to see that. Organizations like the World Food Program, the European Space Agency, these types of sort of government or quasi-governmental agencies, have these incubators and have these programs as well, to find really cool things to just help underserved markets in particular and different areas like this, which are just so unique and so interesting. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I love that somebody's thinking about how can we help drive how can we use innovation to drive economic growth or sustainment at least, especially for an industry like fishing, which you mentioned is so important to to a lot of the communities there, their families, their economy, their bellies, and just making sure that they're able to feed the family and the community and also sustain the economy there. And there's obviously been lots of changes in the climate and lots of things that have happened that can affect that. And so I think that just looking, to something like this is amazing. Obviously, I'm sure from, selfish perspective that, the part-time fishermen who just love to go out and catch fish for fun and for sport would love to have something like this to tell them where to go. But maybe that's part of the sport as well. But
Yeah.
I think this is really interesting, and I'd love to see how maybe they're going to monetize that. Is it through advertising? Is it going to be, a large commercial fishing organization is going to buy the app and keep it for themselves to give them a competitive edge? Or is it just something that's going to be, continue to be open source and used for good, used for, the benefit of humanity and this industry and the people working in it? I mean, obviously I hope for the latter, but I think this is a really, really great way. And I love to see people just thinking outside the box about what they can do, and what the benefits are that an app can bring, right? Like how can we connect people? We see things like, Samaritan connecting people, with the homeless and being able to support them and help them with things nearby. We see, things like this where you can just drive, more, drive, I would say, like an industry and just helping families. Like, that this has a large trickle down effect. So this is like a feel good story for me. And the technology behind it, I'm sure, is really expansive and very interesting. And I like that they're thinking about the satellite imagery, right? Like this is not something that we think about a lot from, a lot of times we're just thinking about like the GPS, just the precision geolocation and how that relates to, marketing and advertising. And I love that they're thinking about this from a little bit of a different perspective. So.
Yeah, and the other thing too, just to mention, is that they've kind of connected this also to a marketplace capability. So in terms of the actual selling of the fish that are caught, so they've got this fishing cooperative. They've got a WhatsApp group to find, link up buyers and sellers and all of that sort of that's tied into this. So it's not just the actual like catching of the fish. It's a full sort of economy around it that they're looking at. So I think that's super interesting too. So very cool.
Very, yeah. All right. So now we're like totally changing stories.
Yeah.
Going over to the media and entertainment industry, the Animaniacs. Do you remember Animaniacs?
Only by name. I can't say I'm familiar with that.
I don't think I really watched it, but I feel like maybe my brothers watched it. I don't know. But anyways, apparently they're relaunching Animaniacs. It was, early 90s show, like a cartoon. And now I guess it's coming back to Hulu. And they're doing like this, I don't know if it's a redo exactly, but basically Hulu is working with out of home, which is really interesting. So they're leveraging out of home digital in order to promote the show. And they're doing these like, on top of taxis and ride shares, they're doing these like holograms, for this reboot. So they're doing this, let's see, at Madison Square Gardens, Times Square, Rockefeller Center, Santa Monica Pier, Sunset Strip, Chinese Theater. So they're all these like holo projectors, and they spin at 30 frames per second. So, it looks like these cartoon characters are obviously like being projected from these cabs. And we talked about a similar story. If you remember, it was around NBA All-Star weekend in Chicago that Puma did, where they had like their sneakers that they were promoting. And so they had those floating on top of the cabs and the ride shares. So this is really interesting. They did this with a company, again, called Firefly, which is the out-of-home media network that had also done, the work with Puma. Apparently this was like a quirky millennial favorite. I don't know. I'm like, I guess I'm on the edge. I'm sort of that weird time frame where like I'm a little just slightly too old to be a millennial, but there's a lot of things still like that I'll pick out and I'll remember. And so this is probably one that would resonate more with my younger brothers than with me. And but I remember it. So it's just really interesting. They're thinking about, okay, how can we reach a younger audience? And this is something that's fun for them. Obviously, a lot of the younger audience is maybe more willing to be out and about right now as well.
Mhm.
It's also coming at an interesting time where they're saying that, obviously shopping is about to start happening for the holidays, and some people are actually willing to go shopping in person and will be doing that. So they say that 38% of consumers are planning to shop Black Friday sales in person. So there will be, a level of people seeing these types of holograms, and they're going to be looking for signage and discounts and QR codes and all of those things. And so they, feel that this is still going to drive engagement and people are going to see it, even though there's not a ton of people that are out and about right now. So I think this is interesting. I mean, I love the idea of something going beyond just the standard digital out of home, and really like being, I don't know, fun and quirky, especially something like this that's a cartoon. The timing of it is not ideal, but you know what? That's the reality right now, is that like there's still, people still have to go out, people still have to go to the store. Some people still have jobs that make them leave the house, and they have to do that. And so, I think that it's going to still drive engagement. So I think it's a fun and quirky play for a fun and quirky type of you know, cartoon that's coming back. So I think it's kitschy. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can sort of create some sort of experience around out of home or activate in a way that just engages people, I think it's worthwhile. I like it. I think the thing that really is interesting for me is that, just watching sort of the last number of months, as far as media and content is concerned, there seems to be this sort of craving for nostalgia all of a sudden, whether it's, Animaniacs, or, there's been these sort of one-off specials. I don't know if you've seen any of them, where they do these sort of reboots of like a one-time episode of Golden Girls with an all-black cast, or, I guess there's a reboot now of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like a one-time episode with the original cast. And Saved by the Bell is back, and all these, like, like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's like we can't come up with new shows, so we're gonna go like into the archive and like come up with, sort of these reboots of things. So there's something there. There's some sort of just like, I don't know. It's like mom's cooking an apple pie, and like, we just want comfort in a tough time, and these are things that gave us comfort back in those days, or we felt good about. So I think there's a bit of that, and I think, sort of the media and advertising industry is trying to find ways to kind of leverage this, whether it's in out of home or in television or what have you. We're seeing more and more of it. I think the one thing that from a technical perspective that I would, sort of would be really interesting here is 2 weeks ago, you remember we talked about this technology from a company called Scanit that had developed this new QR and DRV reading technology and being able to read QRs from great distances up to 60 feet away. So when you're in a COVID time and you're talking about out of home and you're talking about activation and this kind of thing, this is where those kinds of technologies need to come together.
Yep.
So if anybody out there is listening, that's kind of putting this Animaniacs campaign together at Firefly or what have you, or Hulu, go check out Scanit and their new technology because it could be a good synergy there. But yeah, I like it. I think it's fun, it's engaging, and these guys are always trying to create those great mashups between interesting content and interesting ways to activate. And I think from a technical point of view, there's no limits here in terms of what can be done. So I'm quite
Yeah.
interested in seeing how it plays out. All right,
Yeah.
one final story now. Okay, so we've been all over the place today. COVID cases on Google Maps, Animaniacs Reborn, fishing, and now we're going to talk about bathrooms. And yeah, so there's two guys who are basically like delivery drivers for like Uber Eats. I don't even know which platform they deliver for. I'm guessing it's like something like Uber Eats or that type of thing. Um, but if you are those types of drivers that are servicing all these restaurants, and right now demand is hugely up. One of the challenges you have is you're on the road all the time, and you gotta take a break. You gotta go to the bathroom, right? And so, knowing where there's a restaurant that has a bathroom open could be a very valuable piece of data for you. And so these two drivers have teamed up to create an app. It's called the Whizz app, WHIZZ, and yeah, it's basically helps you sort of maps out restaurants nearby that have bathrooms available for use. And in COVID times in particular, this has been even harder for a lot of these folks because many of the places are closed to anybody coming indoors. It's only takeout and delivery, and so on. And so they basically built an app that kind of maps this all out. And yeah, it's the two guys are named Robert Logan and Keith Crudupt. And yeah, they've been struggling with this. He said that a lot of these types of drivers keep a cup in the car, and it's just being able to find a bathroom is that they can use that's open is often a challenge. So they wanted to try and address this for themselves, and I think it's become something that's quite useful for many. So they've got over 1,000 users already. It's only available in Los Angeles, which is where these guys are from. They launched it in June. And they've even teamed up with restaurants. We're starting to team up with restaurants that want to use the app to advertise as well. So they've teamed up with a group called Waba Grill, which is in LA. It's the first partner restaurant on board. And users can download the app, find a view of nearby restaurants with restrooms available. It's got special icons to highlight partner restaurants where users can get a deal on food. So this is for drivers to get a deal on food. And when a user comes into the restaurant, they show the app to an employee who grants them access to the restroom. So that's kind of cool. I like it. I mean, it's like, hey, we are delivery drivers. We have a problem. We're gonna find our own solution to this, and we're gonna find a way to monetize it too. I love their spunk and their drive here. This is super cool.
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, it sure beats having like in my house, what we do is we just travel with one of those little tiny training toilets, for my little kids,
Yep.
because one, I don't want to go in a dirty bathroom with little ones that are touching everything. And two, you just never know, when there's those kind of emergencies. So this is definitely a better option for adults that are, looking and that have the need to use public restrooms because their job doesn't have an office exactly. So I think this is really innovative. I love their thinking. I love that it's called the Whiz Finder app, and I love how they're just like bringing businesses and people together, and like offering extra services and perks to the people who are really making our lives easier and more convenient. We're not having to go out and get food or pick up our groceries or do some of these smaller errands, and we a lot of us are fortunate enough to be working from home and have the ability to have all these things delivered to us. And, the delivery part is their job. So I love that this is making their job easier. And I just think that it's like innovative again, and just thinking about like, hey, what is something that we need right now? And who knows, like in the future, this could obviously lend itself to something differently, right? Like maybe this continues to be what it is, or, when things are more open in the future at some point, maybe this is used for something else and can be repurposed. So I think that it's like it has a bright future. So I hope to see and hear more from these two drivers that were like super, creative here.
Yeah, I think too. I'll try and dig it up sometime. The name's not coming to mind right now, but I remember many years ago on this show. I can't. It's totally gone from my mind. But another group. I think it was in somewhere in Asia. I'm not sure. But anyways, they had come up with an app that was consumer facing to know where you could find public restrooms.
That
Uh,
were clean.
Open.
I
And
think
it
it was
was
like about a clean ranking too, right?
Yeah, that for sure. I know that was in Singapore, but this one was specifically to address people who suffered with Crohn's and colitis,
Mhm.
and irritable bowel disorder and things like that. So they needed to know where they could go, um, and there was an app for that. So maybe there's some opportunities to team up, between what these guys are trying to do for delivery drivers and what is an issue that many people are afflicted with. To work together, so it could be really interesting. It's completely gone from my head, I know we covered it many years ago now. Um, but yeah, so that's it. That's our show for this week. A whole wide array of stuff there. But you've been listening to episode number 492 of Location Weekly. We thank you for your time. If you are living in the United States of America, happy Thanksgiving to you. Have a great time with your family. Stay safe. Be careful. Don't go out where you shouldn't be going out right now. And don't gather with those you shouldn't be gathering with right now. And yeah, we thank you for your time. And of course, we'll be back next week with yet another show. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Right.